I watched them all the time. I think I watched Indiana State and Iowa, Caitlin Clark play about the same last year, so I was watching a lot of basketball.
Like, can we get Caitlin Clark a little protection out there?
Anybody that does something flagrant to this young lady for what she's brought to the game should be suspended and fined big time.
What happens if one of the greatest basketball stars ever sees the most talented young player in the WNBA being singled out by questionable methods? You'll find out because Larry Bird's explosive comments about Alyssa Thomas's behavior against Caitlin Clark have absolutely upended the basketball world. But first, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a top athlete targeted the way Caitlin Clark has been throughout her career? Because of what he witnessed during that Phoenix Mercury game, Larry Bird's view of the WNBA has entirely changed. This is the aspect of Bird's perspective that Alyssa Thomas finds so devastating. Right now, Caitlin Clark is exactly where Larry Bird is. Bird was the best player in a league full of incredible athletes in the 1980s, and because they couldn't match his exceptional basketball IQ, they tried to physically intimidate him. But Bird emphasized this crucial point. This is where the reputation of Alyssa Thomas becomes quite fascinating. Bird understands the difference between what he witnessed in the mob scenario and championship-level competitive basketball and what he's seeing with Clark. "It's the most cowardly act I've seen on a basketball court in decades," he said. "You heard right."
Look at that. Boom. Look at her put her knee into Caitlin Clark's groin. Right there on that play, right? I mean, this is gross right there.
When Bird viewed the footage of Alyssa Thomas pushing Clark from behind while she dealt with getting poked in the eye, he reacted quickly and cruelly. This man, who battled famous enforcers like Dennis Rodman and Bill Lemire, was one of the few people in basketball history who truly understood what true competitive fire looked like. But even he could see that Alyssa Thomas's behavior was beyond the norms of sportsmanship and competitive integrity. However, listen to Bird's comments on the timing of that shove. At this moment, his insight utterly devastates Alyssa Thomas. Before we continue, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. Now let's return to the narrative. The basketball player raised an issue that many fans have been thinking about, but nobody with his level of notoriety had the guts to voice it. Taking cheap shots at a guy when they're completely exposed and not looking is not the same as playing championship-level defense. Bird emphasized that most people considered his era to be the most physically taxing in NBA history. Instead of waiting for someone's back to turn before acting like a predator, you faced them head-on like a warrior when you disagreed with them. And that's exactly what infuriated Bird the most about Alyssa Thomas's disgraceful actions. But at this moment, Alyssa Thomas's reputation is totally destroyed by Bird's critique. Alyssa Thomas's pathetic reaction after the incident really infuriated the seasoned Celtics player. Alyssa Thomas feigned that the media and fans were unfairly criticizing her instead of apologizing or acknowledging that she might have gone too far. She said, "Damned if I do, damned if I don't." But after hearing such comments, Bird felt even more furious. Bird claims that the game's winners and legends, truly great competitors, always take full responsibility for their actions, especially when those actions could put another player in grave risk. He said he was reminded of athletes who knew deep down they couldn't compete at the highest level when he saw Alyssa Thomas play the victim and avoid criticism. As a result, they found more questionable ways to affect the game. In other words, because Alyssa Thomas lacks the real basketball skills to match better potential, Bird effectively described her as a second-rate player who employs unethical tactics. This is where Bird's research truly shines and reveals a fascinating aspect of Caitlin Clark. Bird sees in Clark the same unique qualities that made him one of the greatest basketball players in history. Her exceptional basketball IQ, her unexplainable clutch shooting ability, and, above all, her heavenly vision to improve everyone around her. But as someone who respects the ethics of basketball, he also observes something that really concerns him. This incredibly talented young athlete must constantly be on the lookout for cheap shots and dirty tricks rather than focusing just on reaching her boundless basketball potential. Bird claims that Alyssa Thomas's approach represents all that is wrong with certain players' choice to play Clark instead of pushing themselves to match her exceptional skill level or outwork her on the court via dedication and preparation. It is a disturbing pattern that she is physically targeted when she is most vulnerable. Bird said that this behavior was the worst kind of basketball competition he could conceive of. But because of this, Bird's provocative comments have the entire basketball world talking. Bird compared Clark's predicament to his own experiences of physical intimidation while working. But he was quick to point out something that elevates Clark and puts her situation in great context. He pointed out that Clark, who is only 22 years old, is facing far more adversity than the majority of sportsmen face over their careers. And she's doing it while carrying the weight of being the uncontested face of women's basketball. But Bird's claim about Alyssa Thomas's future in the league is currently making the rounds on social media, and you have to hear it to believe it. Bird claims that if the WNBA allows women like Alyssa Thomas to chase superstars without facing repercussions, it sends the message that mediocre players can use unethical tactics to stay relevant instead of developing their true basketball skills. He claims that this creates a dangerous precedent that may deter the players who are raising the bar for the league. Bird even went so far as to claim that the league's failure to adequately penalize these actions deceives young players who watch at home. He believes that instead of teaching kids how to pick weak opponents, watching the WNBA should teach them about skill, dedication, and sportsmanship. But maybe the most significant part of Bird's entire statement was his prediction about Clark's future despite these challenges. He asserted that Clark was molded by adversity and that every cheap shot, dirty move, and attempt to scare her only made her more determined to prove her superiority via pure basketball skill. Bird compared Clark's situation to his own rookie season, when opponents constantly tested his physical endurance. The difference, he noted, is that Clark is dealing with this behavior in addition to the unprecedented media attention and expectations that come with being the most marketable player in WNBA history. For this reason, Bird's support of Clark is crucial. He is defending the intrinsic integrity of basketball, not just a talented individual. Caitlin Elizabeth Clark, in his opinion, embodies every characteristic that makes basketball unique, including talent, vision, class, and competitiveness. He also sees everything in athletes like Alyssa Thomas that could be detrimental to the sport. The basketball veteran made it clear that the WNBA is at a turning point. There are two choices for them. Either they protect and showcase their finest players, allowing players like Clark to reach their full potential and enhance the league overall, or they continue to allow weaker players to use dishonest tactics to remain relevant. The league's future will depend on the choice made. However, this is the question that has everyone talking. Will the WNBA take Larry Bird's warnings about protecting Caitlin Clark seriously? Or will they continue to allow athletes like Alyssa Thomas to harm the league's reputation through questionable methods? Let's continue the conversation in the space provided for comments below. What do you think of Larry Bird's scathing criticism of Alyssa Thomas's behavior? Do you think he's being too critical, or do you think his criticisms are totally valid? More importantly, do you believe the WNBA will eventually move to protect its biggest star? In the space provided for comments below, kindly express your thoughts. I read every single one of them. If you want to see more analysis like this that cuts through the noise and explains what's truly happening in basketball, make sure you hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell. Larry Bird's provocative comments may ultimately change Caitlin Clark's treatment in the WNBA. The basketball community is monitoring this issue. One thing is getting harder to ignore as this story progresses. One game, one hard foul, or one contentious incident are no longer the only topics of discussion. It concerns women's basketball's future, the standards the league hopes to maintain, and how its top players are handled when the spotlight is shining. Few athletes have ever faced the kind of expectations Caitlin Clark has going into the WNBA. Millions of people watch every game she plays. Every action she does is scrutinized from every perspective, every accomplishment is praised, and every failure makes headlines. Being one of the top names in basketball today means that, in the meantime, veterans from all throughout the league are still competing at the top level, bringing years of toughness, pride, and experience to every game. Making sure that intense competition never veers into needless or risky play is the WNBA's challenge. Fans are looking for intensity. They desire rivalries. They're looking for real basketball. However, they also desire stability, justice, and respect. Because Larry Bird is a person who knows exactly what it means to perform under pressure, his remarks have generated intense discussion. During his illustrious career, Bird encountered some of the most formidable opponents and fiercest defenders basketball has ever seen. But his message went beyond just being tough. It was about preserving the game's integrity and ensuring that basketball skill, not controversy, continues to be the main focus. It's undeniable that Bird's remarks are generating conversation, regardless of whether you wholeheartedly concur with his viewpoint or think the circumstances have been overstated. What should happen when the league's biggest talents become the center of physical play is still a topic of discussion among fans, pundits, past players, and media figures. Do officials need to be more stringent? Should the league impose more severe sanctions? Or is this just a typical aspect of playing basketball professionally? Everybody appears to have a different response. Caitlin Clark's response is unquestionable. She has continued to concentrate on basketball rather than letting controversy, physical defense, or criticism define her career. She continues to compete, show up, and demonstrate why so many people think she is the sport's future. One of the main reasons her supporters still stand by her is her tenacity. Unprecedented attention is being given to the WNBA. Social media conversations are expanding daily, venues are filling up, television ratings are climbing, and new fans are learning about women's basketball for the first time. These kinds of incidents have an impact on how the league is seen globally, not just on a single player or team. Every game will become significantly more important as the season progresses. Every game that Caitlin Clark plays will be thoroughly monitored. Every contentious play will be examined. Every official decision will be challenged. Additionally, each game will contribute to the story of one of the most talked about seasons in WNBA history. You now have the most important question. Do you think Larry Bird's remarks accurately capture the current state of the league? Do you believe the WNBA is taking sufficient precautions to safeguard its stars while still permitting competitive, physical basketball? What future effects do you believe this whole thing will have on Alyssa Thomas, Caitlin Clark, and the league? I sincerely want to know what basketball fans around the world think, so please share your thoughts in the comments section below. This group is great because of respectful debate, and your viewpoint might be included in a future video. Make sure to press the subscribe button, enable notifications, and never miss another upload if you like this breakdown and want more in-depth basketball analysis, exclusive updates, and the biggest stories involving the WNBA, NBA legends, and Caitlin Clark. Every night, basketball history is being written. Thank you for watching and for your amazing support. You'll learn about the next chapter right here, and it may be even more significant than this one. To ensure you don't miss anything, please leave a comment, subscribe, and turn on all alerts. Once you click the video on the screen, we'll see you in the next one.